Hi friends, it's Unicorn. I haven't been reading as much in the past 2 months, especially in March, which I read in grand total of one book. So I think it's safe to say that I am in kind of a reading slump, but it is April already and I want to wrap up the book that I have read when I was in this slumpy time to give myself kind of a fresh start. So today I'm gonna talk about the 5 books that I read in February and March. The first one is called Lost and Found by Catherine Schultz. This is a memoir of Catherine. 18 months before her father passed away, Catherine found the woman that she wants to marry. And in this book, she weaves the grief she had to her father into the stories that she shared with her wife and explore the loss and discovery in our lives both emotionally and physically. This is a very candid memoir. In this book, especially the part where Catherine writes about her dad, I can vividly picture a man who lived his life to the fullest and was well loved by his family, and I enjoyed that part a lot. However, I wasn't able to fully connect it with the part about the found, aka the love story. I think it's because just me. I just in general disconnect with romance, so that's why I don't read romance, which is such a shame because I can tell from the writing that this is such a good book and the stories that they have are beautiful and the genuine love and trust and caring they have for each other are very moving. But overall, reading is a very personal experience for both the reader and the writer, so I didn't give this memoir any rating because I feel weird because I only did not enjoy it as much because I personally cannot connect with it. The second book I read though, I loved it so much. It is The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante and translated by Anne Gulston. This is a very short novel that centered around a woman who was suddenly learned that her husband is leaving her and she has since descended into devastating emptiness after this event. On top of that, she also has 2 small children to care for, so she is forced to confront her loss and rebuild her personalities and learn to accept that her life may never return back to normal. The story, as you can tell, is kind of cliche. However, I have no problem of cliche story if it's done right, which is the case here. Elena Ferrante is always the master of exquisite emotions, delivers a stunning story about the most common things in life and some of the most shaded mental twists of characters. The writing about the desperation is so heart-wrenching, captivating, and at the same time hard to read. I finished the book in one sitting and I remember constantly wanting to put it down, but also I just cannot because I have to know what will happen. The writing was just so beautiful. I love this book. I love Elena Ferrante as always, and yes, I'm so glad I read it. After reading The Days of Abandonment, though, I have to take a break from human emotions, so I have read Eve, How the Female Bodies Drove 2 Million Years of Human Evolutions by Kat Bohannon. This book was nominated for the long list of Women's Prize for Nonfiction this year, and I love it so much, and I was so surprised that it didn't make into the shortlist. Anyhow, this book is about the evolution of women's body. Each chapter focuses on one organ and talking about how women's body evolved, covers the past 2 million years, and explains the science behind the development of the female sex. The book's answers questions about women's body and talks about how and why our body differs from man's and why this matters for the human species. I learned so much from this book and enjoyed it so much while reading. In a scientific nonfiction, needless to say that this book is very informative, but I love the writing even more. It's clear, it's logical, and delivers complex information in a very digestible way, easy to understand, and sometimes the commentary the author has related to her own life makes my partner and I laugh out loud countless times because we were listening to the book together on a road trip. This book is amazing to a level where my non-reader partner, who is usually listen to music while driving, kept asking to continue to listen to this book. I also appreciate how inclusive this book is to trans bodies and everyone who doesn't fall under the cis hetero concept. And I feel like I am better equipped with scientific evidence and facts when talking about inclusiveness in the future because of this book. So I highly recommend it. And then I read a very beautiful book, and my first Ocean One. It's such a beautiful reading experience. It is On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous. This is a novel that was written in the format of a collection of letters that a son is writing to his mother who cannot read. It was written when the speaker, who's called Little Dog by his mother, is in his late 20s, records the family histories that began before he was born, when his family was still in Vietnam, until they moved to the States and grew up in America. There were so many generational trauma embedded in their family stories, and their love and connections as mother and son were so moving. Their loves and understanding of each other shine through the differences between them, those differences including the understanding of race, class, masculinity, addictions and violence, sexuality, and a lot more. This novel felt so personal. I had to remind myself numerous times across the experience of reading it that this is a fiction, not a memoir of the author, but I do feel like it has to be heavily inspired by the author's personal experience somehow. The writing was stunning. At some point, I started to take notes like crazy purely because I want to remember the beautiful writing sentences. I was like a child who's learning how to write and jot down every beautiful and masterpiece that they came by. I have always wanted to read Ocean One, and I am so glad that this book did not disappoint, and I am now even more excited to his other books. Then we come to the last book that I read in the past 2 months, which is the only book that I read in March, which unfortunately did not go well. It is The Latest Guide to Pentacost and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. This is the second book in a very beloved historical fantasy series called The Montague Siblings, and I read with my book club because it features a asexual main character, which we actually very appreciate. However, the pacing of the book is just weird. We have a strong, independent young woman called Felicity who is determined to study medicine. However, at her time, which is middle-aged Europe, I think, not a single medical school is accepting female students, so she went on her own journey to try and be an apprentice of this infamous young doctor who's also her role model. And on the journey, a series of things started to happen related to the title of the book, Pentacost and Piracy. I really wanted to like this book, especially knowing how popular the first book is, but there are a couple of issues that I cannot overlook. The first one is the pacing. The first half of the book was all about her trying to get into medical school. It feels very much like a historical fiction that has nothing to do with fantasy. But in the middle of the book, it's after about 220 pages, the main plot finally came onto the surface, and it reads like the book suddenly switched gears in the middle of the book and just left me with some weird taste. And needless to say, the medical school plot was completely forgotten after that. The second reason that I didn't enjoy it is the series of unrealistic choices the characters made. The twists and turns are very convenient to the plot, but doesn't necessarily make sense. The writing was kind of repetitive as well. There are countless times throughout the book that the main character talked to herself out loud, saying that you are Felicity, you are a strong, independent woman, and you can do it. But her actions doesn't really back this statement up. So overall, there's a lot of telling instead of showing, even towards the very end. And I think the most important reason why I didn't really like this book is because the amount of times where the author is giving out the I'm not that kind of girl vibe, like when she was looking down and being really judgmental to anything related to femininity. And I somehow understand that the book was trying to critique her behavior by making her do and say bold things like that. But at the same time, I didn't see any growth in this character, and over time it just became she was looking down to other women who likes feminine things, and she just thinks that she is better than any other girls. And I feel like it is a time that we let this trope pass on and just drop it, please. So that concludes my very sloppy 2 months of reading. I have read some books that I loved and some books that I didn't enjoy. Hopefully by wrapping them up, I can have a sense of starting fresh again. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please let me know what books did you enjoy in the past 2 months, and thumb up to this video if you liked it, and don't forget to say hi in the comment section down below. I wish you happy reading, stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you in my next bookish video. Take care.